Welcome into the Burger Smokehouse, PowerMizzou.com dance class, our
regular, now non-echoing Missouri basketball post-game show. The Tigers 75-70 winners over Kentucky tonight in a game that honestly went almost exactly the way that we talked about it would before the game on the pregame show. Missouri was a better team, significantly better in the first half. Missouri led this game for 39 minutes and 7 seconds. They never trailed. They led for the final 37-25. Now, Kentucky kept making runs. They get back within 3, get back within 1, get back within 4, and then Missouri would stretch it back out. And then we talk postgame. In the final 5 minutes, Missouri has always found ways to win this year, almost always. In the final 5 minutes, Kentucky has almost always found ways to lose this year. It's exactly what happened tonight. This was a 3-point game with 4:53 to go. And then Kentucky just didn't do anything for more than 3 minutes. And when I say didn't do anything, I mean, that is not an exaggeration. At the 4:53 mark of the second half, Davion Mintz made a dunk to make it 68-65 Missouri. Kentucky's next points came on a dunk by Isaiah Jackson with 1:50 to go to cut the lead to 7. So Missouri went on a 6-0 run over 3 minutes and 3 seconds from the 4:53 mark to the 1:50 mark. Ball game. That's why Missouri is, 11 or 12-3 now. It's why Kentucky is 5-11. I mean, that's all there is to it. The final 5 minutes of that game, Missouri made enough plays to win, and they got them from all over. I mean, Drew Smith made a bunch of winning plays. Mitchell Smith made a bunch of winning plays. Mark Smith made some huge plays. X. Pinson made some. Tillman made some. Parker Brown made some in the first half. And you'll hear Cuonzo talk about this. We just finished up his post-game press conference, and I'm going to play that for you here in just a couple minutes like we always do here to start the show. And after his press conference, we will open up the Skype line, and we'll take your guys. We'll put the number on the screen, and we'll take your guys' calls, and we'll talk about it. But you'll hear Cuonzo talk about this. He says maybe some teams have enough pieces that they don't need all their guys. He said, but we need all our guys. We're a different team if Pickett's out. We're a different team if Mitchell Smith's out. We're a different team if this guy's out. This team, more than any team I remember seeing at Missouri since, I don't want to say Frank Haith's first team because there were only 6 of those guys. There weren't really roles to play. Probably since Mike Anderson's Elite 8 team that had Damari Carroll and Leo Lyons leading the way, JT Tiller and Zaire Taylor playing defense, Matt Lawrence shooting threes, Kim English, Marcus Denman off the bench, Matt Pressey off the bench. This team, more than any other Missouri team since that one, they know their roles. They've figured it out. It's not going to be the same leading scorer every night, but it's going to be either Drew Smith, Xavier Pinson, or Jeremiah Tillman. Mark Smith has to make a few shots here and there. Mitchell Smith has to rebound and play defense. Kobe Brown preferably is going to give you more than he gave you tonight, but we've seen him do that as he did in the TCU game when Cuonzo called him the MVP. This team doesn't really have a superstar. Jeremiah Tillman's their best or their most important player. Is he their best player? I'm not sure. Some nights it's Drew Smith, some nights it's Xavier Pinson. But this team is playing its role incredibly well. And it's why in 15 games, they've won 12 times. It's why they're alone in second place in the Southeastern Conference and the only team that has any chance to catch Alabama, which comes to town on Saturday morning. So before we get too deep into this and breaking this one down, I want to let you hear from Cuonzo Martin after the ball game. And then we will come back. We'll take your comments. We'll take your calls. We'll take your questions. We'll talk all about it here on the Burger Smokehouse dance class. But here's the head coach.
Great win, man. Anytime you can beat a talented team, not only a team with talent, great coaching, but also great history. A lot goes with beating a program like that when you're trying to become that. So again, I'm happy for our guys who won the game. We knew they were talented, and I'm happy our guys didn't take them for granted. You know, we knew they were a talented team, well-coached team, and they showed it tonight. And it's a good thing we were at home because they played well.
Questions for Coach? Eric Blum.
Cuonzo drew with, I think, 26 tonight. I've said in the past that, he plays quietly, but what about his game excited you tonight?
Well, he was assertive. I think, after we got on him, and not necessarily got on meaning chewing him out, but just talked to him about being aggressive offensively. Before we play, I think it was Texas A&M. He's been assertive offensively. That's what we need. I didn't understand why he wasn't aggressive, but we need him to be aggressive. Just happened to be 26 tonight, but he does a lot of other things. He gets in the paint, he makes plays, he gets other guys involved, he gets to the free throw line. I'm happy he played well, and they know, man. For me, like X hit 36, Tim hit 33. That's not necessarily my gauge. The points, it's other things. Him late in games, go get the ball. He and X need to have the ball in their hand to execute what we're trying to do, and I thought he did that.
Dave Matter.
Cuonzo, I know you said earlier in the week you've been challenging Mitchell to give you guys more, and you really needed him tonight with the fouls. What do you think of what he gave you for some rebounds?
I thought Mitch was good, and I even thought the threes that he missed were good shots, but we need that. And I think, him playing well, because I thought he defended. I thought he rebounded the basketball well, kept balls alive. And that's great for us because we need that. We need him to be a guy that can make shots from the perimeter. Now we just get a couple more to go down. I think it takes us to another level as a team. But I thought he played an overall good game.
Sawuchi?
Just looking at the box score, a lot of threes in the first half, not many free throws, and then kind of the flip in the second half. I guess, what did you kind of see in the difference there?
I think it's really what was presented, because I thought our guys were aggressive. I thought we did a great job of getting in paint. We kind of met our numbers, so to speak, as far as paint touches, whether it's via post, offensive rebounds, or drive. So I thought we got that. But again, I hadn't watched the film, but I thought we had kickouts for threes. But I thought those threes were open too because of penetration. So if they're what we practice, I'm okay with it.
Colin O'Brien.
Yeah, Cuonzo, just Drew's poised at the free throw line tonight when the team wasn't shooting very well in the first half. What does he bring night in and night out, that calm presence?
Experienced guard who's battle tested. He competes, and he gives it up on both sides of the ball. I just think the thing about it tonight, you just see the 26 points, but I think his effort overall is always good. He had 26 points, 5 assists, 1 turnover, 7 rebounds, 14 free throws. Those are impressive numbers.
Mitchell 40.
Cuonzo, there were a lot of times in that second half where Kentucky was able to cut it to a one-possession game, but you always kind of found an answer. I guess just what does that kind of say about the team?
I guess somewhat we're lucky, but just like, for example, and I thought Mitch played a good game. We're up 68-63, and he tries to pass to X, just kind of casually pass, they get a steal. That can't happen, especially when we're talking in the huddle. They get in the passing lanes, either go back door, move the ball the other way. But those are the things, just consistently. But we experienced enough. We've seen a lot of things that we've done a good job as of late of taking care of the basketball. And we knew early how they would defend Tilly, sending a double from the top, from the baseline. And we just got to get other production. I thought Mitch helped out in a lot of ways. I thought Parker gave us big minutes as well.
Gabe?
You laugh about being lucky, but this team has found a ton of different ways to win games, especially in the last 5-6 minutes. What's the common thread there that has allowed you guys to do that?
I think they understand that it's hard to be successful. They understand that, and when you have a majority of your guys that have been through a lot, some bumps in the roads, they've learned some valuable lessons, and I just think. They have a passion for each other. They really. I think this is a team that really could care less who leads in scoring, who does all that. I think they can care less about that, and they've gotten to a point where they're able to challenge each other. And I think that's where the biggest growth has come. They can challenge each other where it's not personal.
Dave Matter.
Cuonzo, there are a lot of fouls in this game during some stretches, and a game where maybe you guys could lose composure a little bit. What do you think the way you guys handled some of those situations?
It's part of the game. You're talking about a very talented, two talented teams, physical guys. I mean, then one of those games with a lot of big guys on the floor. So you're talking about physical bigs that it's a lot of banging around that rim. You have to give the officials credit because that's not an easy game to officiate because it's so much physical play in and around the rim.
Mitchell 40.
Cuonzo, Mark hit a few big shots, 3 threes, I think, and then he had that 2 after y'all hadn't made a field goal in about 4 minutes in the second half. I guess just what can you say about him kind of, staying poised and ready and pulling that off tonight?
It's good. It's good to see him knock shots down. I thought he had one where he missed one. I thought it was a great look for him, and I was happy he stepped up and shot it. But I thought the drive was a good one, too, because he had his composure. He's a strong driver, and oftentimes Mark has a tendency to push off on that type of drive, but he kept his composure, got his balance, knocked it down. And that was a big shot, and it was much needed.
Colin?
Yeah, Cuonzo, this is about the halfway point of SEC play. Just what are you most proud of this team at this point in the season?
I think outside of the basketball part, they've been true professionals in dealing with COVID virus and staying out of harm's way, giving up certain things as far as family time, all those things that are normal, in order to be successful as a team and try to play games as a team. So they've made a true commitment as a team. So you have to respect that. Now, on the floor, man, they're experienced enough. We're healthy enough, so that means we're good enough. So I felt like if we were healthy enough and you have all your parts, you have a chance to be a good team. So I think that's it. But I'm happy to see these guys win, especially the guys that have been here, because I saw the work that they put in, over the years, and we just didn't have enough. And to see them having success, I'm happy for them.
Jack Sobel.
Cuonzo, going back to Drew, what's his consistency on both sides of the ball meant to this team over the course of the season?
It's valuable. I mean, but again, and you asked him about Drew, so I have to answer when it comes to Drew, because he plays on both ends. He competes. He gets rebounds. He assists. He's a point guard. He's a two guard. He'll guard the other team's best guard or maybe a wing guy. But his value is just as much as whatever Javon's value is to our team. Everybody has a role to play in order for us to be successful, because we're not the same team without Javon. We're not the same team without X Pinson. We're not the same team without Jeremiah. So everybody plays a part in what we do. And maybe some other teams have so much where it doesn't matter who's out, but we need all of our parts to be successful.
Mason?
Hey, Coach. So the bench scored nearly a third of the team's points tonight. What are your thoughts on how that group played as a whole tonight?
The bench, I thought did good. I mean, like I said, I thought Parker hit a big 3. I thought Mitch got big rebounds. Mark played well. I mean, again, they're talented guys, and I think there's way more that we can get from Mitch and Parker. No doubt in my mind, as a staff, we feel there's still more, a lot more in those two guys that we have to get from them. But I mean, Mark can make shots. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's a starter that's coming off the bench, so I'm not surprised with Mark.
Joel?
Hey, Coach, Tillman didn't exactly have 33 and 11, but can you kind of describe just the impact of his presence being there? I mean, there was never a time, I think, where they weren't doubling him. So,
well, the thing is, with him being doubled, now you're talking about guys that are doubling with size. So the guy that's defending him already has size and strength. Now you bring the guy to double with size, length, athleticism that can block shots. Then they rotate out it well. So it come from the baseline, it come from the top. So he came at them different ways, and I thought he got rushed a little bit, because I thought sometimes it was one-on-one, just take your time, make your moves. I thought he rushed it a little bit, but give them guys credit for sending length, athleticism, giving them different looks, and it's part of it. But again, you're able to get other opportunities when he's being defended that way. Just other guys have to step up and make shots.
All right, so there is Cuonzo Martin after the 75-70 Missouri win over Kentucky, just second time in school history Missouri has beaten Kentucky. We put up some of the key numbers over there to my right, and really, I mean, second chance points in that first half. Missouri was all over the offensive glass. Second chance points, all 11 of their second chance points were in the first half. they built that 13-point halftime lead largely on the boards. 19 points off turnovers. Kentucky only scored 7 off Missouri's turnovers. We had an interview in the pregame show with Justin Rowland from CatsIllustrated.com. He told us, look, if Kentucky has to sit down in a half-court offense, they can't do it. They're not good. They've got to score in transition. They didn't score in transition. Not much, anyway. Missouri got more points off the Kentucky mistakes than Kentucky got off Missouri mistakes, largely because Kentucky made more mistakes, which is what they have done all year. That game is only surprising if you let the names on the front of the jerseys distract you, because that game is exactly how both of these teams have played all year. So a couple things. Up in the right-hand corner there, Burger Smokehouse. That's our sponsor for this show every single game. Every post-game show sponsored by Burger Smokehouse, third and fourth generation, family-owned and operated out of California, Missouri. You can get their stuff all over. You can get it at Schnucks, Hy-Vee, Gerbs, Price Chopper, all over the state. I actually picked up some bacon today. Going to use that over the weekend, so I highly recommend that. I've still got some pulled pork and some ribs in the freezer that we'll pull out at some point, maybe for Super Bowl Sunday. We'll see how that goes. But Burger Smokehouse, make sure to support them. They have supported us all year, football and basketball season, make what we're doing here possible. The other thing, you can see down there the phone number, 573-234-4935. The Skype line is open. We'll take your calls. We'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. This show is always far better when we're talking about what you want to talk about rather than just me babbling on about what I want to talk about. We're going to start with what you guys have been talking about here in the comments, and it seems largely to be focused on two of the three Smiths tonight, and not the one who was the standout in Drew Smith, but we're talking a lot about Mitchell Smith and Mark Smith, and Todd Julian puts it, I think, pretty well. Mitchell Smith is one of our best players, and then he shoots it. Yeah, and we will get to that in just a minute, but we're going to go to the phone line first, and we're going to go to the 815 area code. Who am I talking to?
What's up, Gabe? It's Ron.
What's up, Ron? How you doing, man?
Doing okay. I know that especially that second half was kind of ugly at times, but I know you said like right before or right after Cuonzo's presser, like you shouldn't really be surprised if you take the names off the front of the jersey, but
right.
I think as fans, like I don't think you should apologize and feel bad about only beating Kentucky by 5, even if it's not a good Kentucky team. Like, they've had Mizzou's number ever since they joined the SEC. So a win is a win against the Wildcats.
100%. I mean, Missouri is now 2-13 against Kentucky all time. And look, you better go beat Kentucky while they're down. Like, you don't let them up off the mat because they're not going to be down a lot. This is probably going to be the worst Kentucky team you're going to see in a while. And you don't apologize for that. You just beat them and go on about your way, and that's what Missouri did today.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And I know he was kind of the whipping boy tonight, but you can't take Mitchell Smith off the floor. He was incredible tonight. And while I kind of screamed at my TV every time he was chucking up 3 after 3 after 3, he did like pretty much everything else you'd want him to do in that game. Like, I didn't win that game without him because he was crashing the board, he was taking charges, and he's been like the epitome of a Cuonzo glue guy, and he's been big all season, but tonight especially so.
Yeah, I'm about 2/3 of the way through my post-game thoughts, and I just had one sentence on Mitchell Smith. I said, Mitchell Smith should never be allowed to shoot the ball, ever, but he made a lot of really big plays tonight. I mean, at some point, like, I get it. Martin keeps saying they're good shots, and yes, in the offense, a college basketball player, you want him to take those shots, but like at some point you have to understand there is a reason I'm standing all alone out here, right? Him and Kobe Brown should not shoot 3-pointers. They do many things that help this team win, but that is not one of them.
Right.
So.
Right, and just kind of wrap up. And speaking of doing everything you'd ask someone to do, Drew Smith, like, again, maybe the quietest 26 points I've ever seen, but it seemed like every time, like, they needed a bucket, every time Kentucky rallied close, he made a big shot or drew a foul. Again, I think we talked about in the past, X and Tillman, and Drew. If at least two of those guys play well, I don't really know if either of X or Tillman had a particularly good game, but Drew kept them afloat.
Yeah.
So just my parting question to you on my way out, since I'm not all that familiar with the history of Mizzou basketball, where does Drew Smith kind of rank in the pantheon of Mizzou guards, or is he, because they haven't made the tournament, is he even like in consideration for some of the better guards in Mizzou basketball history?
Yeah, I mean, let's see where this team ends up this year. I mean, don't get me wrong. If they go to a Final Four, they're all the most beloved players in school history. But he's, he transferred in. He's a 2-year player. Hadn't played on a tournament team yet. He's a good player, but nobody's going to put him in there with with a Melvin Booker or even like a Brian Grauer or Clarence Gilbert or I mean, it just whatever the number. He's been a heck of a player for Missouri, and you know what Drew Smith is? He's the dude that when the 20-somethings and the teenagers and the college kids come in the rec center and are dunking and are doing everything, he's the 42-year-old white dude that just comes off and hits a bunch of set shots, and all of a sudden these young guys are walking off going, "How'd that dude beat us?" Like, I don't get it. 'Cause nothing he does is flashy, but it works. So.
Exactly. I imagine he's a probably pain for everyone else on the other team. Like, man, we could shut down this dude. No, you can't, because he finds a way to beat you. So
100%.
Anyway, thanks for doing what you do, Gabe. Talk to you later.
All right, Ron, thanks for the call, man. We're going to go stay on the phone lines. We got the 314 area code. Appreciate you hanging on, man. Who am I talking to?
Hey, this is Jake.
What's up, Jake? How are you, man?
I'm doing well. Hey, I just got two things. Talking about the bigs tonight. Obviously, Jeremiah Tillman had a decent game.
Yep.
He was facing double teams all night. I just feel like you got to get more out of Kobe Brown in a game like this. It just looked like he was not in it from the start. He gets that 3 blocked by Isaiah Jackson, and then he goes in, gets a foul.
He had a bunch of
more
fouls.
out of him, I feel like. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, the flip side of, like, Cuonzo's talking about, and we're talking about this team doesn't have a star, right? It can be a different guy every night. The flip side is you're going to usually have a guy that you just go, well, what happened to him tonight? And that guy tonight was Kobe Brown. I mean, he gave them nothing. And why did Parker Brown have 5 points in the first half and give them some good minutes and keep them afloat? And why did Mitchell Smith have 11 rebounds? Well, because those guys had to do it because Kobe Brown was largely on the bench because he gave them absolutely nothing tonight. So, now last game, Kobe Brown was huge, and Cuonzo said he thought he was the MVP. So I think it kind of goes with what we're talking about with this team is the balance. You never know who it's going to be, but it has almost always been somebody.
I completely agree. And on Parker Brown, you see the skill set there. You see where he's able to do on the offensive end. And you watch him on defense, and you can almost look like he's not looking at the scouting report. He goes against Lance Ware, who is only left-handed, and sits on his left shoulder, not forcing him to use his right hand. Whereas Tillman comes in, Ware tries to go left shoulder, or left hand, and he can't get there because Tillman's just riding his right shoulder. And I think that's a lot of Parker's problem sometimes.
Yeah, and I think we fall in love with offense, right? And you can see Parker's he's got some leaping ability. He's got a nice jump shot at 6'10", whatever, 6'9", however big he is. And people fall in love with that and say he should be playing more. But then you point out the exact reason he's not. I mean, because to play for Cuonzo Martin, you cannot be a net even player, right? For every point you score up, you can't give up a point on the other end. But again, he's a guy who tonight, that's his role. I think it's 6 minutes on a night where you need it. He's not a 25-minute guy, and I'm not sure that he ever will be. He certainly won't be if he doesn't get better on the defensive end. But I think on this team this year, that's his role, is what he did tonight. Come in, hit a couple shots, knock a ball around, don't kill us on defense for 4 minutes while we sit Jeremiah or sit Mitch or whoever it might be.
I agree, and that's why Pickett plays so much, is he's able to do the little things that Martin asked him to be.
Yeah.
And the last thing I got is, we look at Ken Pom, we look at adjusted offense, adjusted defense, and stuff like that. This team just is good at one thing, and it's just winning games.
Yeah.
And they win games at completely different ways. and that's all that really matters in the end. It's not how well you look, as if a win's a win's a win.
I have said, the way I have phrased it and I think I even posted this on the message board, but I know I've told friends of mine this. I said, I don't know what this team is really good at other than scoring more points than the other team almost every night. And in the end, that's all that matters. Like, they're not winning the eyeball test. They're not winning beauty contests, but they keep scoring more points than the other team, which is much better than you look at Kentucky getting off the bus and think it's a good team, but they keep doing everything that's just enough to lose every time out. So there's something to be said for battle-tested and experienced and just finding a way to get it done. I mean, it is in the back of your head. It worries you. Hey, can they do this 6 times in a row? I don't know. They've done it 12 times out of 15, and a lot of times I get to the end of the game and say, not really sure how they did that, but they did do it.
Well, the most confidence you got to have is one night in the tournament game they can shoot like they did in the first half possibly, and the next night they can come out and win a game like they did against Bradley. They can win it either style, and that helps a lot in the tournament.
Yeah, totally agree. They're winning 80% of their games. Got a huge one on Saturday, and who knows? I mean, I wouldn't bet against them against Alabama this weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, Jake. Appreciate the call, man. Thanks for being part of the show. And any of you guys out there who want to be a part of the show, there's the number, 573-234-4935. Give us a call, and we will. The calls always take priority. I'm going to jump through, some of the comments, but the calls always take priority. And we were talking. Todd's comment about Mitchell Smith kind of led us right into the phone calls and had some Mitchell Smith talk. And now we're moving on to the other Smith, and that's Mark. And David Newman puts it pretty well. And let's go 908 area code. Who's on the phone?
What's up, Gabe? It's Schiff.
What's up, Schiff? How you doing, man? Did you watch tonight, or are you covering the Nets?
They played the Clippers last night. I was able to watch about 3/4 of the game before I had to hop off for a phone interview for another story. So I'm hoping my question is actually intelligent, and the 1 quarter I missed doesn't make me look like a fool for asking it.
Okay.
What'd you think of Jeremiah Tillman's game? The time I watched, it seems like they really doubled and tripled him in the post. And, I mean, Olivier Sarr is a pretty experienced big compared to most guys. I want to say he's a grad transfer, too, so he's probably one of the only guys Tillman's battled that might have played more minutes than him. It looked like they had him on some lobs and that there was a lot of plays he couldn't execute, but he was right there for.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that Kentucky honestly did probably, and again, obviously I haven't watched every game, but I thought Kentucky did a pretty good job not really making him a factor for the most part. But again, maybe the one part I missed, I should have watched.
No, I think he had 8 points and 6 rebounds maybe, and he fouled Sarr out of the game, so that helped. But this was a game that, like, if you look at the box score, you go, Tillman wasn't what he usually is. But it was one of those games where kind of like he was the guy that attracted all the attention, right? Everything Missouri was able to do, they were able to do because everything in Kentucky's game plan was don't let that guy beat us. So he almost just became the best decoy by occupying 2 guys pretty much every time he touched the ball or every time it looked like he might touch the ball, which then opens up Mark Smith to score 11 or opens up Mitchell Smith to get 5 offensive rebounds or whatever. So numbers-wise, it doesn't look great, but I still think on the list of reasons Missouri won tonight, he's probably second right behind Drew Smith.
Gotcha. And what do you make of this recent uptick in 3-point shooting? Are you a believer that they might have turned a corner there, or you need a larger sample size to be a believer?
Well, I mean, I've seen a game and a half where they shoot well versus, like 35-40 where they don't. I mean, look, Pinson made a third of his 3-point shots in a single game on Saturday. Like, that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
I think your hope is in the NCAA tournament, you run into one night where you're that hot, right? Like, basically, to do what this team wants to do, you got to win 4 games. So on one of those 4 games, and preferably not in the first round against like a 14 seed, hopefully you don't need it then, but in one of those other 3 games, you hope, hey, we come out and we go 11 for 21, or something along those lines. And that's what gets us to the next round, because they can win a game that way, but it's not a formula for them to win games, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I got a two-part thing on Alabama this Saturday.
Okay.
One, what do you think will be a bigger deal in Tuscaloosa if they were to win the league or whatever big-name recruit they get that day?
Not even a question.
That's what I thought. And two, just if they were to beat Alabama, I guess, what does it do for your expectations for the rest of the season? Having covered them the past 2 years and not really paying attention last year, I mean, they haven't won a tournament game in years. To me, if they just get to the round of 32, that's a good year. But to me, if they beat Alabama, then I start to think more about maybe the bar is the Sweet 16 and then see who's waiting for you in the next round.
Well, I mean, the bar is win a tournament game. They haven't done it in 10, 11.
Yeah.
I think it'll be 11 years by the time the tournament rolls around. So if they make it to round 2 and they get beat, even if it's an upset, it'll be a little disappointing. But like they've done, the program has moved forward. So Saturday's game doesn't change that for me. Saturday's game really only means one thing. It means, is there one team in this league who can maintain any shred of hope that they can catch Alabama in the standings? And Missouri probably can't, but they're the only team in the league with fewer than 4 losses. So if they beat Alabama, they're 2 games behind. And, theoretically, like you could see them maybe doing enough to win a tiebreaker, even though I don't see Bama losing 3 times. But if they lose Saturday, like the whole thing's over and everybody knows it. But no, I don't think that changes. My expectation for this team is win a game in the tournament. And if it goes further than that, if you get the right draw, that's great. But, Schiff, you and I have had this conversation. Like, I don't judge seasons on the tournament. It's too big of a crapshoot. It's, I've seen 31-win teams lose in the first round, and I've seen, like, the worst regular season Missouri's had in this century, they reached the Elite Eight. I mean, the worst in terms of expectations, not the worst. But, like, Quinn Snyder's team in, I think it was 2002, they were awful. I mean, they went from preseason number 5 to the last team in the tournament. It was a terrible season, but then they won 3 games at the right time because they had the right matchup, and everybody thinks it was a great year. And I don't buy that. I mean, I'm not going to judge the whole season on 4 games.
Yeah. A good analogy is the Kentucky team that went to the finals against UConn. They were like the 8-9 seed, I want to say.
8 seed, yep.
Very underachieving in the regular season, yeah. If memory serves, then the last time Mizzou won a tournament game was that Elite Eight run with Damari Carroll. If I've still got my stats right, I want to say.
No, I think the next year, they beat Cincinnati in the first round.
That's right. Mike Anderson's last year, I want to say, right?
Yeah, last year or second to last year. I can't remember. It would have been the second to last year because he was here 5, and in the last year they they quit in the Big 12 tournament, and then they got run out of the gym by somebody in the first round. And I'd have to look back at who it was, but like it was obvious at that point that something was drastically wrong, and what was wrong was the coach was going to Arkansas. But no, I'm pretty sure that it was Cincinnati they beat in 2010 because like every year about this time I do one of those days between dates to count up how many days it's been since Missouri last won an NCAA tournament game, and we're nearing 4,000. I'm not sure if we're over it yet, but we're near it.
That's some really impressive math for an industry where we get joked on for not being able to do math. That's really well done on your part.
I can multiply anything by 10, so 365 days in a year, 10 years is 3650. So I don't know if we're quite to 4,000, but we're getting there.
That's true. I'm not as impressed anymore now that you explained it.
Right.
I am pulling for your boys on Sunday, Gabe.
All right.
I will be keeping you in my thoughts for that, but win or lose.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Have a good one, Schiff.
Yeah.
All right. Alex Schiffer, friend of the show, friend of the program, friend of the site. Appreciate the call. And again, it seems like every time I pop up a comment, then we get a phone call. And so again, phone calls always take priority. We will jump on the phone line when it rings. But we'll get back. We were talking about Mark Smith with David Newman's comment that he hit the biggest shot of the night. I thought Mark had 2 or 3 really big shots in that game. There was one, I think it was 61-58 or something like that, and Mark hit the little drive and pull up from about 14 feet. He had a three that was big. He had a tie up on a rebound of a free throw that swung the possession arrow back to Missouri, which didn't end up mattering but could have mattered. So I thought Mark made some pretty big plays late. He had no turnovers, which is a huge thing for Mark Smith. And, I wrote in my post-game thoughts, which, again, aren't completely done, but I try to keep some notes and do some of it during the game. We started this season. This goes back to kind of filling the roles. We started this season thinking Mark Smith's role might be leading scorer on this team or might be knockdown shooter, right? Well, that's not really the role at this point. His role has now become give us like 2 big shots a half, two to 3 big plays. You're not going to be the guy usually. Now, there might be a night he scores 22, but he's not. He's the 4th offensive option on this team right now behind Tillman, Pinson, and Drew. And so his role is come up big when we need you to come up big, even if it's not all the time. Or jump to the phone lines, 636. Who's on the line?
Hey, Gabe, it's Justin.
What's up, Justin? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm hanging in. Always better to talk about a win. People seem more interested in doing that.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Well, I just got a couple of more comments, but I'm curious your take on both of them because we talked about it a little bit earlier in the show, the 3-point shooting, and I think it's a little more of a trend than what most people kind of probably expect. 4 out of the last 5 games, just happened to look back at it because of your comments, and they've shot over 38% in 4 of the last 5 games. Now, it doesn't have to be, we don't have to expect 40% going forward, but, we get closer to the tournament, some of the tighter games. If they can just be above 30, as opposed to the dreadful 25 they were at early in the year, 2 threes a game is a big deal coming down the stretch here.
100%. Yeah, it doesn't have to be 50%, right? I mean, if they can be a 38% 3-point shooting team, as much as they drive and get to the line and Tillman causes problems, like, that's good enough. I mean, Alabama actually, like, people think Alabama is this great shooting team. Their percentage actually isn't very good. They just shoot so many of them. I looked it up a couple days ago. They average like 11 for 30. So that's right around 35%. If Missouri could just get to 35%, you'd be happy. It's the fact that they were hovering around 27 for so long. And so you looked up the numbers, and 4 of the last 5 games, it's not a big enough sample size to convince me, but it is an encouraging sign.
Yeah, right. It's just it's better than, we were looking for that the whole time. But yeah, no, absolutely. And the other thing is just a little bit to touch on that is it's so strange having to watch a team that just finds ways to win and expecting that without having a. It's not that they don't have an identity. I think they do. They try to have good defense. They try to, focus on the big 3, having 2 of those 3. We kind of talked about all those things, but it seems like every night they just are finding ways to win. And I'm just curious, do you think that's something that we can, at this point, count on? I mean, are we to the point where we just are going to expect this team to find a way?
Okay, let me answer that in a really stupid way. Yes, I think that's kind of what you expect with this team now, but like it's going to happen until it doesn't happen, right? And you just hope it doesn't not happen at the wrong time. I mean, I know that's I'm not articulating what I mean, but like I don't know if that's a strategy, just
right.
Hey, I hope they find a way, but I'm gonna and everybody's gonna be able to cross off on their bingo cards me relating something to the Kansas City Chiefs here. Because for the last 2 years, really the last 3 years, I've been a football fan that watches a game and goes, well, I don't really know how my team's going to win. I just know they are. I don't know if it's going to be with a kickoff return or a punt return, or the other coach is going to lose his mind and call a fake punt with a 24-7 lead, or the wind is suddenly going to blow a field goal the wrong way. I don't know how. They're just going to win, right? And Missouri doesn't have that big of a sample size yet. They also don't have, the best player in the sport on their team, but they are starting to develop a sense in watching them of, like, I don't know about you, I never felt like they were losing that game tonight.
No, I agree 100%. And it's a crazy contrast from, it wasn't that long ago. We watched just the absolute breakdown and complete opposite in Mississippi State.
Right.
But tonight I didn't feel that way. They legitimately learned from that ball game.
Yeah.
And have now consistently figured out how to affect the game differently and win the game instead of lose it.
And I thought it was telling that, like, Kentucky never even tied the game. I mean, I was legitimately surprised when I looked back at the end of the game, and the last time the game was even tied was 3-3, 2 minutes and 35 seconds in. I mean, Missouri, they didn't. Maybe that's what this team's identity is. They just do enough. Like you said. Yeah. I mean, it's not pretty. Drew Smith might be their best player, so maybe it's fitting. They do enough to win games, and I guarantee you, there's a team full of dudes flying back to Lexington tonight that would love to have that identity because they've got the exact opposite one.
Yeah, absolutely. And every time they get it to 3, it was 2 punches back from do they get to 7. So
yeah, it was always 7 or 9. Yep.
Yeah. Every time they get it to 3, it was like it was 2 good plays. It was a play, a stop, and then a bucket. It was pretty consistently. They just put it back at arm's length right away. So, well, I appreciate your time, Gabe. Thanks for answering my questions, and have a good night.
All right, Justin. Thanks for the call, man. Thanks for being part of the show. Appreciate it, and hope other people will take your lead. Bob Douglas helping us out with the super chat, which I'm supposed to contribute to Mitchell's plane ticket to Buffalo to go to a wedding with Bob. This is a long-standing thing on the show, and Bob, appreciate that, man. Appreciate you not only watching but showing a little appreciation and tossing some stuff our way. So let's go back to the phone line. Who am I talking to? 573 area code.
This is Mike.
Hey, Mike. How you doing, man? What's going on?
Not much, but just watching your show like I always try to do. I appreciate what you put into it. I join you on Power Mizzou all the time. I have for multiple years. It's amazing.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
But I'm wanting to ask, because I've been here for a long time, and I've seen Michael Sambody. That's the reason I actually started my Mizzou tickets.
Okay.
Because I went to school with his brothers.
Okay.
What do you think about him compared to Kobe? Think he is sort of the same player? Dirty guy, gets down there, does the rebounding, does all the other things, or not?
I can see the comparison. I think in future years, I think Kobe will take on a more offensive role. I think on this team, that's his role. And man, you're hitting home with me with Mike Sambody. That dude was like one of my favorite players growing up. I loved watching him play because he was always on a team with more talented and more athletic guys, but they won games because he was on that roster. And Kobe Brown
there
did
wasn't
that.
Wasn't a rebound that got away from him, just like DeMarre Carroll. Wasn't a rebound that got away from him.
100%. And Sambody and Jeff Warren was another guy like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Kobe, he has played that role at times. He did on Saturday against TCU. I don't know if that's consistently his role, but he has become a much better rebounder this year. I think he's got to be a much better defensive player to be talked about with guys like Sambody and Warren.
Yeah. Mike put himself out on the defensive side, and it came out on the offensive side on rebounding. And his offense was basically putbacks, or occasionally making 50% of free throws.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he was a guy that he wasn't going to put up 15 points very often. He might do it once a year, but so I think Kobe's got a little more offensive game, maybe a little more skill in his game. But I think right now on this team, that's kind of what Cuonzo asked him to do, is just do the stuff that nobody else is I don't want to say willing to do, but do the dirty work basically.
Exactly. That's what I was just curious. I trust your opinion. I actually value it, so I thought I'd call and ask.
Well, hey, anybody that values my opinion, you're always going to get on the show, man, because they're few and far between. So I appreciate it, Mike.
All right. Thank you very much, Gabe.
All right. Have a good one, Mike.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for being part of the show to Mike and to the rest of you who have called in and invite again any of you who want to continue to be a part of the show to do so. Breakfast King, yeah, Jeff Warren passed away a few years ago. Loved watching that dude play. Loved watching Mike Sambody play. I actually met when I was in college. It's story time here. I know you guys like story time on this show every now and then. So when I was a senior in college, I had a friend from Hannibal. And we went out to a local watering hole, which no longer exists. I believe it was Deja Vu, and we'd been there a while. And she knew Greg Church, who I believe also was from Hannibal. I'm not sure, but anyway, we bumped into Greg Church and Mike Sambody, who at that point were older. I mean, they were 6-7 years older than me, I think. So they were there, and I'd had a beverage or many beverages, and I shook both their hands, and I told Mike Sambody how much I loved him as a player, and went on for a couple minutes, and I was like, Greg Church, you're cool too, man. But Mike Sambody, you're the man. And then continued to praise Mike Sambody. So I'm sure if Mike Sambody met me at this point, he would probably not remember that night. Hopefully would not remember that night, because I don't think he would be a huge fan of me on that night or going forward. And yes, Hot Shoulders points out I did have a friend actually in college, and it was actually a female. We weren't dating or anything. I mean, but yeah, I had a few friends. I mean, not a lot, but there were a few people. I didn't even have to pay all of them. So yeah, we hung out, and it was good. And yeah, and besides Tim McKernan, Hot Shoulders may be Tim McKernan. That seems like it would be T-Mac's screen name, but appreciate shouting back to my college days. And yeah, David points out that Sambody is Parker Brown's uncle, and that is true. Parker's mom is Mike Sambody's sister, actually. Oh, Davin points out that Greg Church is from Palmyra, and he is right. I was wrong on the Hannibal call. We're going to 417 area code. Who's on the line?
Yeah, this Mark. A quick question.
Yep.
I don't understand KenPom. This rating system. Because I'm sitting there and looking, Mizzou is fourth, and I see the teams ahead of them. Can somebody explain to me in February why we're still 34th? Because I don't get it. Illinois is sixth.
Right.
And I don't understand. Is it because I know at one point they were talking about early season ratings?
Yeah, it used to be.
February.
It's not that anymore. So, because I actually asked that exact question on Monday, and I said, somebody who knows more about this, please explain this to me, right? And here is the way it was basically explained to me, is that sites like KenPom are analyzing every game and every possession, and they are basically saying, okay, you are scoring X, whatever, 1.10 points per possession, giving up 1.3, blah, blah, blah. They are estimating what you should be based on what every possession is. And so basically what they're saying is Missouri should be, based on the way they play and what the data says, they should be the 34th best team in the country. Now, clearly, on the court, Missouri is better than the 34th best team in the country. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about a couple calls ago, which is a lot of these games, we think maybe they shouldn't win. We're not sure how they win, but they win. And that's what analytics can't account for, that, because analytics, the data tells them that Missouri shouldn't have won some of these games, but they did win.
Right.
And so
Arkansas's 26th.
Right.
Is it because, is it just scoring differential? I mean, I just don't get it. But they're not part of the selection committee's criteria, right?
No, the net ranking is, and Missouri came in today on the, I think 30th in the net. So that's part of it. Now, it's not the only thing they're going to look at. And most people who do these things think, as of today, Missouri would be a 3 seed, maybe a 4 seed. And I think that's fair. Somewhere between the 10th and 20th best team in the country, I think is fair. I mean, Missouri is now 7-3 in quad 1 and quad 2 games. 10 of their 14 games have been against basically what equates to top 100 teams. And they don't have any bad losses. And so a lot of those things are going – the resume is going to look really good for Missouri. The metrics might not look as good for Missouri. Again, I think we have become so much like you have to pick a side on this. Either you have to go by what your eyes tell you or you have to go by what the numbers tell you. And there's room for both. And my frustration with some of the analytics have been people who don't kind of make room for – this doesn't equate with what my eyes see, so maybe these numbers aren't gospel, right? But there's room for both. But I think, basically what Ken Pom is saying is I can't really account for why this team has the record it has because the numbers tell me it shouldn't have this good a record.
So does this mean the coach is really good or the players are overachieving?
I think it means they've made big plays at the right times. I mean, if you look at, I don't know, you can find a number of examples of a team that wins the World Series that, I don't know, their batting average isn't that good, their ERA isn't that good, all these things, and everybody tells you clutch hitting doesn't exist, but somehow they always get the big hit at the right time, right? So it kind of like analytics say that clutch hitting doesn't exist. But maybe it doesn't. But how do you explain a team that's outperforming everything that you think it should? So I think Missouri has those numbers a little bit fooled this year. And whether, look, maybe those metrics will catch up, right? Maybe we'll find out at the end of the year, the bounce didn't go their way. The bounces had been going their way, and it caught them at the wrong time. Who knows? But I think that's where the difference is. Just even I think we've got a lot of people on here, and I'm saying it too. I look at them, and I don't think they're this good, but they continue to be this good, and I can't tell you why.
Yeah, last thing, and I'll get off. It's such a Missouri thing to have the best team we've had in 10 years, and we have a pandemic, and we can't have a full house. It's only Missouri this would happen to.
Well, except it's happening to a lot of – it's happening to everybody that has their best team in 10 years.
But, this is our best ball club, and I'm a season ticket holder, and I opted out for next year.
It would be – Tonight would have been fun, and I know that Jim Sturck was not exactly thrilled that he had a football season where he had Georgia – LSU and Alabama come to town, and he couldn't sell tickets to any of those. But it is what it is, and hopefully we'll all be back next year, man.
Thanks, Gabe.
All right, Mark, thanks. And we're going to stay in the 417 area code. Who's on the phone? Well, we were going to stay on the 417 area code. I don't know what happened there. Both calls disappeared at the same time. So if you just tried to call me from the 417 area code, please call back. I'm not sure what happened there. When Mark hung up, we lost both calls, so we'll jump right back to you. When you call back in and make sure to get to whatever other incredible insight and knowledge we had coming our way from Springfield or Joplin or Buffalo or wherever it is you are calling from down that direction. So once again, Missouri, a 75. There is the call coming back through. 417 area code. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened. Who am I talking with?
Hey, Gabe. It's Tucker here in Joplin.
Hey, Tucker. How you doing, man? What's going on?
Hey, doing good, thanks. And I apologize. I haven't been able to watch much tonight after the game. Had a couple of other things to do. So if this has been discussed, I apologize. But I want to bring up the Cam Fletcher thing. And I know you guys probably get tired of reading about it on the board. But since he played against Missouri tonight, I think it's pretty relevant. And to me, and I know Cal's won a bunch of games, won a national championship, but I mean, that's pretty bad, I think. I think it's better if he doesn't play him at all than for him to put him in the game in essentially his hometown. I know the fan situation is different because of COVID, but and right down the road from his hometown, and he puts him in the game for the first time in a while for 20 seconds and then calls a timeout to take him out of there. Cal can probably get away with that, but there's a lot of coaches like that. I mean, that to me is a terrible look. And I don't know what the kid did, but yeah.
I know there was like an on-court kind of meltdown basically, and they got into it, and I don't know exactly what happened either, but I was surprised when he came in the game tonight because he hasn't played since then. And I've just been I kind of wanted to be able to get on the Kentucky Zoom, but obviously I just couldn't do it tonight. But like, here are some other comments that Calipari has made tonight on the UK Radio Network postgame on Terrence Clark. If you're limping around after 5 weeks and the MRIs and scans show nothing's wrong, you can't play. Earlier he had I know that he was pretty harsh on another player that I saw too, and I can't remember exactly who it was, but he was basically saying, yeah, I was really disappointed in the way this guy played. I mean, like you said, Cal can probably get away with it, but a lot of coaches who say things that Cal says would not get away with it. I mean, it's just, that's all there is to it.
I mean, I didn't think he'd play tonight. If he doesn't play tonight, I don't think it's a huge story because he hasn't played. But he plays for 10 seconds and you call a timeout to get him out of there. To me, that's way worse and a way bigger slap in the face of the kid than him just not playing.
Yeah, I agree. And I honestly, I think I didn't notice that he yanked him after that short of time. But yeah, it was, I don't know. And, it was Cal was talking about Davion Mintz and said that putting him in pick and roll was questionable, and he kind of called himself out for it. But you're also calling the player out there. You're saying I asked him to do something that I know he's not any good at doing, right? So,
right.
Look, Cal is never going to be accused of not saying what he feels, and I think to some extent, you signed with him. Like, you got to accept that. Now that's different than, like you say, what he did with Fletcher. And I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and I don't have any idea if Cam's going to go back. That publicly, they're all saying the right things, and I hope for the kid that honestly that he does stick it out and he turns into a good player and all that. But if it's irreparable, like I said on the pregame show, I would assume Missouri would at least take a look. I don't, you'd have to know more about what was going on before you said yes, but I would assume Missouri would at least take a look.
Yep. Yep, I would have to think so. Well, all right, that's all I got for tonight, Gabe.
Appreciate it, Tucker. Thanks for the call, man.
Yep, thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you. There's still got time if you guys want to call. Hey, earlier games, 6 o'clock games are much better than 8 o'clock games because I don't like getting done with this stuff at 12:30. But if you want to call in, there's the number. But I've been telling you guys that I'm going to get to some of your comments, for the entire night. And really, we've just had enough phone calls that we haven't been able to do it. So I enjoy that you guys are chatting with each other. But I do want to roll through. We've talked about Mark and Mitchell Smith. Steve says Brown has to stay out of foul trouble. We have to keep Mitchell Smith on the bench. But look, they don't win that game without Mitchell Smith. I mean, they don't. Now maybe if Kobe Brown's not in foul trouble, maybe he does what Mitchell Smith did tonight. But they don't win that game without Mitchell Smith tonight. 11 rebounds. I think he had 5 points. I'm going to look at the box score real quick here. And I will tell you, Mitchell Smith had 5 points. He was 1 of 7 shooting and 1 of 6 from 3, and he should never take 6 threes in a game. But he had 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, a steal. He was +3 on the night. So, again, they don't win without him. All right, going back to the phones, 206 area code. Who's on the line?
Hey, Gabe, this is P. Duff.
What's up, P. Duff? How you doing, man? Johnny's Beanery fame.
Oh man, I love those guys. I was really bummed to hear that place closed down, but they're great guys, and I loved your comment today about how you'd give them the sponsorship. That's funny.
Absolutely, great place.
Okay, I got a couple things. Number one, and I've thought about this a lot, and a caller a while back was talking about how it's sad that we can't, pack the place, and I totally agree with that. But on the other side of the coin is we've gone to a lot of away games and not had to deal with those home environments. And I would love to hear, nobody really talks about that side of it, but I'd love to get your kind of thoughts on that. And number two, my second question, I'll hang up, listen off air, as it were. What is going on with Alabama? I really haven't watched them that much. I heard that they're crazy 3-point shooting team. You just mentioned that they're going about 11 for 30 per game. So It's not like they're shooting 50%. What does Mizzou need to do to beat them on Saturday? And what how do we match up against them? Like I said, I haven't really watched them that much, and I'm as surprised as anybody.
Right.
So with that, hey, man, thank you very much for doing the show. Really, really appreciate it. I haven't called in during the basketball season, but I've been listening, and I love it.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot for the call, P. Duff, and I'll take those in order for you. So
love it.
The home court advantage. There is no sport in which home field or home court advantage means more than college basketball. There just isn't. These places like Cameron Indoor and Rupp, and even some of the ones you don't know about, like Mizzou, like Hearns really was, or Thompson Bowling at Tennessee, or Bramlage, or Gallagher Ibo when they're good. I mean, Hilton Magic. People just don't go and win in these places, and there's two reasons. First of all, I mean, you got anywhere between 8,000 and 20,000 people going absolutely nuts, and that's a little rattling. But it also gets officials rattled and influenced. And like this idea, we've said it 100 times, the idea that you're playing 8-on-5 in Allen Fieldhouse, like that's a real tangible thing. Calls get made there that don't get made here. And things happen. Like Christian Moody, he makes one of those 2 free throws if he's in Allen Fieldhouse. He doesn't make them in Mizzou Arena. It is a very tangible. I mean, I really think it's worth, depending on the gym, I think it can be worth 4 to 6 points. And so, yeah, not having to deal with that. Obviously they lost at Auburn and Starkville. A&M isn't generally the most intimidating place, but like when they go to Ole Miss, or if they go to Georgia, Stegeman Coliseum, like, not having to deal with that absolutely is a factor. They won at Wichita State. Who knows what that game is like in normal times when they can pack that arena. So, yeah, I think it all evens out. It's weird, but I think we're seeing in all sports, home field, home court advantage kind of doesn't exist this year, but it's even more noticeable in college basketball because it's normally just such an absolutely huge deal. As far as Alabama, look, I'm not going to lie to you and say I've watched Alabama play 7-8 times this year because I haven't, but I know how they play. And how they play. Nate Oates is their coach. He was actually Wes Clark's high school coach in Michigan. Then got the Buffalo job. And that's why Wes transferred back to Buffalo and then took the Alabama job. He plays fast, and their entire approach is basically this. We shoot threes or we shoot layups. We don't shoot in between. So that's why they take 30 to 35 threes a game. Everything else is at the rim. That's the idea. Now, I'm not going to tell you that Alabama never takes a mid-range jump shot. I'm sure they do. But the general principle is threes, layups. Those are good shots. Other things are bad shots, right? And they're right. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So I think you've got to protect the rim and you've got to take care of the ball, right? If Alabama only has 60 possessions and they go 11 for 30 from three-point range, well, then, you can survive that. That's their average game. But if they have 80 possessions and they use 10 of the extra ones to take threes and they hit 4 of those, then all of a sudden they're 15 for 40, so maybe the percentage isn't great, but 15 threes is going to win a whole lot of basketball games. So I think you've got to limit. You don't have to go – you don't want to get completely out of your game and walk the ball up the floor or anything, but you do have to limit possessions when you play Alabama, and you have to take care of the ball. You can't be kicking it around, turning the ball over 18 times. Or you could do what Missouri did against them last year and go 31 for 31 from the free throw line, which I think was very helpful. Let's see, kind of rolling through some of trying to see if I can catch up on some of these comments from you guys. A lot about Mitchell Smith shooting. It hasn't been good, certainly, but he did make a lot of plays, that helped to win the game. And David Newman says, can't believe the biggest shot of the game was Mark Smith off the dribble. Yeah, wonders never cease, right? I mean, hey, we thought maybe he couldn't do that, but he did it, and good for him. Let's see, keep on rolling through. Tillman didn't have a great night, but we were worthless without him. He was very important. I want to look at the plus minus. I think he was +8. He was. He had the best plus minus on the team. He was +8. Javon Pickett, oddly, had the second best plus minus at +7. I would not have guessed that. And we didn't have a chance to ask Cuonzo after the game, how he was health-wise. I would assume it's not super serious and he'll be back next game, but I don't know that for sure at this point. Bama has the SEC wrapped up, but it would be nice to beat them. I'm not going to say they have it wrapped up. They definitely do if they win. They probably do anyway. But, we'll see. Going back to what we were talking earlier, Spencer Tumbleson corrects me on Missouri's last tournament win. It was Cincinnati that beat them. They beat Clemson the year before in the first round. So Cincinnati beat Missouri in Mike Anderson's last game. The year before that, they had beaten Oliver Purnell and Clemson in the first round. So that's it. I think it was in March of 2010. So I think we're going on 11 years now. Let's see. I know what I wanted to get to, and I can't find the comment, but I think it was Breakfast King of Loyola earlier said, I really like the way Missouri's schedule sets up going forward after Saturday. So here's what they've got after Saturday. Alabama on Saturday. So if you win that, you're 13-3, 6-3 in the league. If you lose it, hey, you're 12-4, 5-4 in league play, which is, that's all right. But then you're at Ole Miss next Tuesday, next Wednesday. Then you host Arkansas, a team you've already beaten. You're at Georgia. You're at South Carolina. You host Ole Miss, and you host A&M. Guys, that's got a real chance to be 6-0. Now, I think law of averages says maybe Missouri trips up one in there, but that should minimum be 5-1. So even if you lose the Alabama game, you go 5-1 in that stretch, you're looking at 17-5, 10-5 in the league with Florida, and then the 2 makeup games left. That's pretty good. Like the soft spot in Missouri's schedule is coming up after Saturday, and Missouri really needs to make hay there and just lock up that top 4 seed. Again, top 4 seed in the league, win a game in the tournament. Whatever happens after that is gravy. And I'm not saying you'll necessarily be satisfied with it, but that's the goal. That's clear proof that this program has moved forward. And I think that is that's what we're looking at. That's where this team is trying to get. So to wrap it up real quick, and appreciate all you guys who have been here, who have hit the like button, who subscribe to the channel, who take part in the show, whether it's in the chat or on the phone lines. The show is much better with you guys doing all that. So do appreciate all you guys being here. Appreciate one more time Burger Smokehouse for being such a big part of it and making everything we do here possible by sponsoring the show. Once again, you can get their stuff online at smokehouse.com. You can get it in person at grocery stores across the entire state of Missouri. I got some today. I went to 2 different grocery stores. They both sold it. Schnucks has it. Hy-Vee has it. Most other grocery stores in the state of Missouri have it. So check out Burger Smokehouse, smokehouse.com if you're out of state and you can't get it in the store. But make sure to support them because they do support us. So just kind of to wrap up, Drew Smith, sneaky great, like the middle-aged white guy that hits jump shots at the rec center. Mitchell Smith, 12 rebounds, should never shoot a 3 again. Mark Smith came up with big plays at the right time. Jeremiah Tillman, only 8 points, still the most important player on the floor. Kentucky does enough to lose every game. Missouri does enough to win every game. We honestly don't know why. We don't know if they're this good, but they keep winning. And they're 12-3. And they're in second place alone in the SEC with the conference, I'm not going to call them champion yet, but the conference leader coming to town for a nationally televised 11 a.m. game on Saturday. So what that means is pregame will start at 10. Postgame should be 1:30-ish. We will be here with you for the Tigers and the Tide on Saturday afternoon. Thanks a ton to all you guys for being here and taking part in the show. And Hump says it, beat Bama, and there you go. that's a good way to wrap it up. So thanks for watching, guys. Mitchell 40 has plenty of stuff on the site. I'm going to post Cuonzo's video, and we'll have other stuff as well. So we will catch up with you Saturday, and hope you read everything leading up to then. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.